Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. It is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on July the 1st, 2024. Welcome to the show. Today marks the 157th birthday for Canada. It is Canada Day. All across this great land of ours, everybody's out there celebrating being Canadian. I went away on the weekend. I'm not going out to do any of the celebrations. I have in the past. It's absolutely chaotic, super busy. I'm just going to be out here tonight because I have not been out here for a couple months. Neglecting my podcasts, which I've been doing since 2019. Every single weekend, some weeknights, like tonight. And you may well say, okay, well, you know what happened? Well, I mean, everything, life happens. Life happens every single day. And so does everything happen with our overall well-being, our physical health, our mental health. We all have challenges in our lives. We go through a lot of things in our lives. Mental health and emotional well-being is a necessary resource for living a healthy life. The main factor of overall health. It does not mean the same thing as mental illness. Poor mental health can lead to mental and physical illnesses. Good mental health allows you to feel, think, act in the ways that help you enjoy life and cope with all its challenges. Has all the positive and all the negativity. Life experiences, family situations, death of a loved one, which is right up my alley. Yeah, it's been 14 months, but it's still been a real challenge for me. It still pains me. It pains me every day I go see my mother. It pains me to see her, what she's going through. I thought I would be further than what I am. Thought I'm going to be okay every day. You know, this is what our loved ones wants us to be. We want to be okay every single day. We want to be able to cope with everyday life challenges. I go to work, I come home. I go to work, I come home. That's my week. 4 weeks out of the month. I occasionally go out, but not often. Not often as I should. I'm not physically active as I should be, because being physically active, and it doesn't mean, being physically active doesn't mean going out playing sports. Physically active is maybe just going for a walk. Maybe going for a bike ride. Not a motorcycle bike ride, but a bicycle bike ride. Getting out there and getting some fresh air. I should be doing more of that. Our physical health and our mental health are the same. People of all walks of life who are obese, who are overweight, not doing physical things, for a lot of people out there, we begin to isolate ourselves. Main factor in the overall health. So, mental illness, all right, we say these are the same exactly. Okay. Mental illness is experienced in 1 in 3 Canadians during their lifetime. Many Canadians affected by either directly or indirectly through family, friends, or colleagues. Mental illness is the reduced ability for a person to function effectively over a prolonged period of time because of significant levels of distress, changes in thinking, mood, or behavior, feelings of isolation, loneliness, sadness, the feeling of being disconnected from people and activities. Mental illness may not be able to cope with the simplest aspects of everyday life. Usually begins during adolescence and young adulthood. Mental illness can be experienced by people of all ages, of all cultures. Mental illness, you could be, schizophrenic. You could be bipolar, just to name a couple. So, but work is not enough. We can't put working activities for physical activities, that brings us health. Well, work activities, whether it's repetitive work or just working in factories, being a truck driver, being and stuff like that, physical activities outside of the workplace, meaning enjoying the things that like you do. Maybe you do like sports, maybe you just do like going for those walks, maybe you do just like going for those bicycle rides. Physical activity and mental health obviously goes hand in hand. And of course, it can be a job loss, a romantic breakup. I've had plenty of them. A sudden change in circumstances. Well, maybe you're moving to a new area, going to a new school, going through a divorce. Twice for me. But most of us are able to regain control of our lives after a difficult situation. But those with a mental illness feels distress on a regular basis. They feel powerless. They feel powerless to regain control. Mood disorders that affect how you feel. Depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, which causes mixed up thoughts, delusions, hallucinations. personality disorders, a type of mental disorder in which someone has unhealthy patterns of thinking. Depression can do that too because you're trying to figure out why you're depressed. What's causing the depression? What's causing the sadness? There's lots of risk factors for mental illness. Abuse, trauma, stressful life events, financial problems, a loved one's death, divorce. So the stressful life events, such as financial problems and loved ones and death, like the death of a loved one and divorce. These three things keep popping up all the time. Exposures to drugs and alcohol, your social, economic, and educational status. So mental illness, well, it changes our thinking, our mood behavior, combination. Type of mental illness, individual, family, patient's environment. Mental health is as important as our physical health, and they both directly affect the other. People with physical health problems often experience anxiety and depression, which affects their recovery. Mental health factors can increase the risk of developing physical problems such as diabetes, heart disease, weight gain, or loss. People, you know, for people who are feeling down, people who are feeling sad, they look at food as comfort. They're gaining weight, or they're just not eating. They're just not eating enough. Then we have weight loss. Now, for me, and so when it comes to um, a death of a loved one, we grieve. Everybody grieves differently. There isn't a timeline when grieving stops. It's not a set date. It's not a set time. We laugh, we cry. We have our we have all our memories, but that goes without saying is not easy. It's going to happen to every single one of us. And we're going to grieve. Birthdays, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, anniversaries, family get-togethers. There's that emptiness. Going to the special events or even remembering a birthday or whatever the case may be, that person or persons are not there physically. It may be, kind of, silly for me to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do when this happens? And what am I going to do afterwards? How am I going to be? How am I going to feel? How long is that going to last? Can we prepare for it? Maybe. Do we feel that, brace yourself because, you know, you're going to the visitations, you're going to the funeral, you're going to the wake, and then you're going on your way. The emptiness that it leaves behind. I know my siblings, you know, they they have their days, they have their moments. My mom has her days, she has her moments. We talk about them every time I go and visit her. We have pictures on the wall. We go to the cemetery. My mom is a strong woman, and she, you know, she goes, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay." Probably to a certain degree, she's okay. But I know deep down in my heart that, she's not. But she puts on that brave face. And mothers, they're a miracle. You know, they're resilient. They have the ability to, I don't, should I say, hiding it? Because they don't want to burden everybody else. They don't want you to worry about them. But we're going to worry anyways. And I keep telling my mom I'm going to worry anyways. Family's important, of course. I mean, I have a family. I have grandkids. We're going away at the end of the month. We go away at the end of the month the end of July every single year. And it's a good getaway for me. I go away for 2 weeks. But then when I come back, well, I still have, I guess I could feel fortunate. I mean, I still have a job to go to. I'm not like a really big social person. I don't think I ever was. I have friends, but they've been married for years. They have their lives. See see them from time to time. Oh, how you doing? Things are great, wonderful. Hope to see you again. I grew up in the same city all my life. Never lived any other place. Thought about it. Couldn't bring myself to doing it. I'm planted here. Maybe a good change of scenery helps. But I don't plan on moving out of the city that I grew up in, city that I know. Living in the neighborhood that I grew up in. Seeing a lot of things come and go, a lot of changes. People come and go in their lives all the time. Co-workers may move away, take another job. Financial problems, a lot of people, nowadays are looking just at that. Cost of living. You see it, we all see it. The cost of housing. The lack thereof. So it's not just financial problems. It's not just a loved one's death. It's not just a divorce. Abuse, and abuse that causes trauma. The province of Ontario, it's the province I live in, recently acknowledged partner abuse, calling it an epidemic. Unfortunately, that's been going on for as long as I've been alive. And they're just calling it an epidemic now. And with the lack of housing and lack of supports, that abuse and trauma increases. People can't escape because shelters are full. People being turned away. Only to have to go back to the abuser. Trauma could be caused not just by the abuse, but trauma can be caused by an accident. Witnessing the accident causes trauma. Not just for the general population, but for our emergency personnel, our fire, police, and ambulance. Post-traumatic stress disorder. A simple accident would change everything, physically, mentally, financially. Could just be as simple as falling down, head injury, stroke, heart attack. A mental illness, mental disability. Stigma. There's self-stigma, where you blame yourself. Stigma from people outside of your circle. Labeling. No, the doctor says, "Oh, you have bipolar. You have schizophrenia." Any other sort of mood disorders, it's a label. Other things can cause depression too, is people cancer. Which I mean, we hopefully don't get. There's no guarantee. Because of the stigma, like I said, of mental illness, many people avoid or delay treatment. And stigma is a negative association made about certain behaviors, activities, people, qualities, circumstances. And it's not just stigma from people, other people, it's self-stigma. Mental illness help, mental illness in Canada, all these agencies, mood and anxiety disorders in Canada, Mental Health Commission of Canada, the Mental Health Association. Of course, your family doctor. I do from time to time go see my family doctor, talk about how I feel. Do I feel better when I leave the office? Somewhat, I guess. Because one thing we cannot do, and I'm doing it, is neglect. Neglecting to do the things that I like to do. By saying that, I would even, come up to my little studio that I have set up here, and I would log into Podbean, and I look at the statistics and stuff like that. And, would even before, it used to be like, no, I need, it's great. Look at the numbers going up. Now I go back on it and I look at it, and it's a flat line. whole month of June coming into July. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, there is. I can't change that. I can't change June. I can't go back in June and change it. So now, it's like, so I went on this site. I've been on the site before. It's podcastguest .com. You can invite guests on your podcast. I had one guest that was, I think it was April. And then, it's not like you can go on there and you can invite these people. It goes through um, podcast guest, and then they send it off to that individual you like to have on for a guest, and then it's up to that individual or individuals, if they accept your invitation. That could take a couple of days. That could take a week. It could take a couple of weeks because, people who want to be on podcasts, they want to be a guest on your podcast, they're not sitting around waiting to be invited. So it is a challenge. I guess now, I guess like I had one guest on my show, and I guess now I have to really challenge myself to get more guests. How easy is it going to fill up a week? It's not going to be easy. That's for sure. Getting evening shows, well, that could be a challenge. It's just going to be a challenge either way, whether it's going to be an evening or it's going to be, on the weekend, because it's their schedule, what works for them. So I'll need to work with them and pick a date and time. Now, I don't expect an email to come back today, and I don't expect an email to come back tomorrow. And tomorrow's Tuesday already. So even to get a guest for the weekend, that could be a challenge. Now I only sent out 2, and after this show, I'm going to send out a couple more. So it gives me something to work with. But I need to do better for me, right? So taking care of my mental health and taking care of my physical health, it's going to take practice. It's going to take patience. And of course, some support. So to maintain and improve my mental health by following um, some advice from my doctor, whoever I go talk to, accept life can be challenging. Well, I know it is. Know and accept your strengths and weaknesses. Set realistic goals for yourself. So we need to learn to recognize and understand that myself and others, you, have both positive and negative feelings. We all do because we're human. Create a sense of meaning in your life by learning and trying new activities. Yeah, I need to do that. Like starting a hobby. Well, I started this back in 2019. So in the last 14 months, well, going on 15 months, I missed 4 of those months. Create a healthy, trusted relationship with people who you accept and support you. Making meaningful connections with your family, friends, peers, colleagues, other members of your community, like you belong, safe and secure, free to express your thoughts and feelings on issues that are important to you. And that goes like for, okay, so issues that are important to you. Well, it could be a lot of different issues. Family, of course, the environment, your environment, issues that are important to you. Well, I mean, there's a lot of issues that are important to me. A lot of issues that are going all around the world right now that are important and that are being addressed. I don't me personally when it comes to what's going on here in Canada, when it comes to the homeless crisis, the addiction crisis, the housing crisis, cost of living. To me, it's though that the federal government, provincial government, the municipality, I can say to them, you created this. You created this by doing nothing. You created this because you think it was just going to fix its own problem. You created this because these agencies that we out there, all these supports and everything that we out there, they're just going to take care of the problem. For instance, with social housing, there's always been a waiting list. Last 10 years, it's been 10 years. What created the inflation? What's raised the cost of food? What's raised the cost of rent? Interest rates? Wages? Will things just level off, and where at? We're the people, and we're waiting for answers. As far as I'm concerned, the government is not giving them fast enough because the government doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Premier of Ontario wants to build 1.5 million homes over 10 years. Well, over 10 years or 10 years, that's too late. We needed it yesterday. Population didn't stop growing. Housing stopped. Rents have doubled and tripled. People are, looking at rental evictions. Because the landlord wants the most so they can charge more rent. And that's going all the time. It's in the news every single day. People living on disability. People living on old age pension. This is all they have coming in. People low wage earners. The Ontario government thinks that $17.50 is a good wage. Good minimum wage, good starting minimum wage. So actually, here in Ontario, we're the second highest in minimum wage, starting at $17.50 an hour. Now, if you're a single parent making $17.50 an hour, you're in a lot of trouble. Unless you already have social housing, or you already have a place that, rent hasn't gone up, because anything built before 2018, the rent can only go up 2.5 on an annual basis. Anything built after 2018, somebody moves out, they can charge whatever the hell of the rent they want. That was the province. They changed that, right? They removed rent control on new builds after 2018. So anything they're building today, we're going to build affordable housing. Well, what's affordable? What does affordable mean? And affordable for who? I mean, look around you. Go out in your neighborhood. I do not have to walk very far from where I reside. Homeless people. Tent encampments. Now the city that I reside in now has restrictions of where tent encampments can and cannot be. A certain distance away from certain areas, like from schools, daycares, parks, swimming pools, splash pads. Can't put your tent encampment on city hall property. Well, I sure in the hell would. What are they going to evict you off the sidewalk? Certain parks, cemeteries, obviously. I mean, I've never seen a tent encampment in a cemetery. Makes it more challenging for people who are always on the move. Set up in one place, get kicked out, move to another place. Get kicked out of that place, move to another place. The mayor of Sarnia, Ontario is hollering at the provincial government to do something about the homeless. It's not just the provincial problem. It's a municipality problem. It's the provincial problem, and it's a federal problem. Talk about mental health, mental illness, depression, anxiety, lack of nutrition. Their needs and wants. Sometimes I think that, we all have a responsibility in some way in to help. To give our input, our ideas. The World Health Organization, says that we all have a right to shelter. It's a human right. And then there are the people not in my backyard. They have that not in my backyard syndrome. It's like those safe injection sites for people who have an addiction to drugs. And they go to the safe injection sites, and where are they supposed to put them up? Where they're supposed to put their shelter. Not to shelter from the elements. But it's not just, to, so what we see, the hidden homeless, they can't even account for that because they can't count them. Couch surfing, living in their cars, homeless with a job because they can't afford rent. I mean, where does it end? I mean, I can't even imagine what they're going through. My feelings, what I'm feeling is different. What I'm feeling is still, struggling with a loss of a loved one. people out there are far worse off than I am, far worse off than you. And the challenges they have to go through every single day. So try to get through some things, like, just not really, you know, um, really bad hardship, but just like, just create a healthy relationships. Well, for some, that might not be as easy as it says. Positively interact with your community. So whatever else going on in your community, I mean, especially if you have school age kids, get involved in the school, getting involved in the neighborhood community. Talk openly about your mental health. That's For some, that's easier said than done. Because people who have a mental illness, they have that self stigma and they have that public stigma. So we should be talking openly about our feelings. How to improve our self esteem, feeling confident in your worth and your abilities. And of course, our ability to successfully move on after a negative event and regain control of your life. Yeah, I fall backwards 2 steps. Now I got to move forward 3. Today's a first step. Coming back out here doing my podcast after a 2 months hiatus. People listen to podcasts if they want to listen to podcasts. Listen to any podcast you want to listen to podcasts. Whoever you want to listen to. I wasn't, I wasn't concerned about my listeners and followers. And by saying that is that I know that you will listen. It doesn't have to be a live show. I got something like 455 shows. I'm not worried about numbers. Not worried about downloads. I'm not out here for numbers. Not out here for downloads. was out here to talk to you. I'm out here to talk. And I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate that, you come on the show and listen to it. Hope you can come back out again and listen to it. I can't, guarantee you a nightly show, Monday through Friday. I'm off today because it's a holiday today here in Canada. It's Canada Day. It's Canada's birthday. Canada is 157 years old. Depends how I feel too. I mean, I work long hours when I go back to work. Start work at 6:30 in the morning. Sometimes I don't get home till 8 o'clock at night. Shows are generally done on the weekends in the morning, between 8:30 and 9. How tired am I after work? I find it difficult to do a show if fatigue is setting in. I want to be able to concentrate. Said to myself, I said, "Self, I said, you should do a show 8:30 in the evenings during the work week." Well, I said to self, I said, "Well, if that's possible, sure." Now I could probably work it in. Okay, it's Monday, throwing a show Saturday or throwing a show Wednesday, because it gives me a day in between, to rethink something, right? To rethink things, you know, talk about something. While I wait for a couple of responses back, for a guest speaker appearance, and I mean that'll be a live show, so everybody be welcome to come on in and listen. But I don't know when that's going to happen because I haven't got the response back yet. And set up a date and time that works for the both of us. It works for everybody. Time zones, schedules, days, events, their lives. I mean, we all have our lives, right? I mean, I've got nobody you know, to do all these bookings. It's just me. So as they come up, and of course, will we agree on a date and time? Then it'll be posted up, and if you're a follower, you would get a notification. on said date and time for that Pacific show. So I got to take small steps right now before I can take bigger steps. I think having a break in between doing shows is a good thing. There are people out there who do podcasts who are able to do it every single day and have it consistent every single day. And good for them. Maybe at some point in time that'll happen here on the Truckers Podcast. But for now, I mean, I just basically, I can get out here when I get out here. I did post up the show earlier in the afternoon today. So I guess I just have to just play it day by day because, I have to, I have to look at my schedule, right? My work schedule. I get that work schedule at the end of each workday. I can see what's going on. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be here. So I want to thank you for coming out and listening to me here on the Truckers Podcast. I'm just kind of just like rambling on right now, but thank you so very much to all my listeners and followers and all of you here tonight live on the show listening. Thank you for coming out. I hope you can come out on my next show. I wouldn't want to, put up a show and then not be available. It's going to be a short work week for me this week, Tuesday through Friday. I could put something up for Wednesday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that gives me a day to reflect, come up with something to talk about. I mean, there's a million things to talk about. So let's do that. 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, which would be the 3rd. I can't even believe it's July already. 7 months into the year. Yeah, so Wednesday the 3rd, 8:30 p.m. I'll have something posted up there in a bit. So thank you again for coming out here and listening to the Truckers Podcast, FYI. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you're here in Canada, enjoy the Canada Day celebrations and enjoy the rest of your week. Take care and be safe. And thank you. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug, from Ontario, Canada. Take care and thank you.